Hello, and welcome to another video where I'm gonna break down my Yellow Torment clear this time for Grand Assault GOZ. Like my previous video that I did on the Red Grand Assault GOZ, this time I'm gonna be walking through how I, pretty much cooked up my Yellow Torment clear, and in a similar fashion, I'll first start off by explaining the teams I chose, the students I chose specifically in those teams, and while clearing my torment ticket, where I ended up restarting my run and where I did mess up eventually, even though I got the clear in the end. So without further ado, I'm gonna pull up my phase one or team one, whatever you wanna call it. I pull up Torment GOS. So my first team had Misaka Mikoto, which is not a popular option or even not a more available option compared to other options. Like I've seen people use Chirino, people use Momoi, and in fact people might not even use a second AoE clear and only use Iori. But I went with Misaka Mikoto first of all. Now the reason for that is I already had her invested because I did a few attempts at Total Assault Cassette trying to clear Torment, but I unfortunately at the time didn't have the time to clear it. So anyways, I had Mikoto invested already at UE 30, all T8 gear, and all the relevant skills maxed out. So I was basically looking up the general phase 1 teams, and like I said, people were using Iori, and alongside Iori they were using Chirino, Momoi, or a buffer like Swimsuit Ui. Now I went with Misaka Mikoto because I ran some calculations on Charlie.gg, which is a very good resource for just diving deep into the game's calculation damage output. So I found out that Misaka Mikoto with my investment could end up one-shotting the phase 1 mobs. So if I quickly scrub through my clear, which again I'll go over it completely, but just to showcase Mikoto in action, I'm just going to quickly highlight that. So pretty much starting out, I end up using Mikoto first. So you can see her AoE range is also pretty much endless, and if you look at it closely, she just one-shots all the bears at the back. If I rewind it slightly, rewind it slightly and just show it to you again, that she can again just one-shot all the mobs in phase 1. So this is very helpful because it means besides the phases where the mobs have double spawns, so when the train spawn on both sides, besides those I can just 1x wave clear the bots, especially the bots at the back which have a lower HP, and those are also the biggest danger to my team because they end up bypassing your frontline tanks and do AoE damage to your backline as well. So taking out these bots is very important, especially in Torment or Insane. This again, all of this what I'm yapping about right now applies to any difficulty that you want to aim for. If you're a level 80 sensei trying to clear Insane, or if you're a level 87 sensei trying to clear Insane or Torment, or if you're level 70 trying to clear Extreme, etc., all of what I'm saying can apply to those difficulties as well. But anyways, continuing on, if I just play this again, so starting off, of course, I use Misaka Rex, and as you can see, she one-shots the bears at the back. Now, of course, that time I crit, but even if I don't crit, she can still pretty much one-shot them. I ran those calculations separately. I'm not going to dive deep into that, but that's one of the main reasons I went with Mikoto. And the other reason as to why I did not use Momoi, which can sort of do the same thing, the reason for that is, again, if I just go slightly back to where I'm lining up for X skill, here you can see her skill similar to Aris, the base Aris, who has a similar style of AoE X skill. Her X skill range extends effectively pretty much across the map, compared to Momoi, which does stop enough. It is a fan shaped area and it does have a limit to where how far it can shoot. So with Mikoto, I don't have to worry about the bots being in range or not. She can pretty much just blast through every mob on the map with that's within her EX AoE. Now, on top of that, her basic skill exists well, which you can see it deals to 28% of her attack and continuous shock damage worth 157% of her attack. Now that doesn't usually come into play that much, but once I go through pretty much the whole 20-25 minutes worth of VOD I have of me clearing Torment, you'll see that there are times where Mikoto's basic skill also can take out the backline mobs that spawn. So these are the two reasons why I ended up using Mikoto and why it was relatively comfortable compared to using Momoi. And as for why I didn't go for Chirino, because she would have been a slightly better option as well. I just want to invest in my Chirino for this. So anyways, that's the reason why I went with Mikoto. Other than that, Mika, single target yellow, don't have to explain more than that. Tsubaki, her main role is being a frontline tank. Again, as you can see with my positioning, Tsubaki stands in front of Iori, so Iori is protected by Tsubaki a bit, and in generally once you start repositioning, Tsubaki also just generally ends up being in front of your team. So that's why she's good. And on top of that, she has blue armor, which is good because GOZ on Insane and Torment has red armor. Now, other than Tsubaki, I've seen another popular option that people use is Miyako, Swimsuit Miyako, who is an evasion based, who is a tank that excels at evading basically, and she has yellow armor. But again, since she's more focused on evading stuff, that's why people use her in GOZ as well. But she's again a gacha tank compared to Tsubaki, who is freely farmable. But that's another alternative that I've seen people use. And Iori, again, I don't have to explain it that much, but if I have to, I'll just scroll this a bit. Now here where I end up using Iori X, she can again also pretty much take care of one side of the mobs or just one wave of the mob in one use over X skill. So the first shot goes and kills one enemy. Now why I chose to kill that enemy, you'll see when she shoots her second X shot, the AoE lines up such that the even if the front mob gets targeted, the back mob dies to that AoE. So that's why there was a specific reason why I chose to target one of the mobs instead of, there was a logic behind me targeting this mob instead of that mob or this mob. Now, other than that, Shizuko swimsuit doesn't need that much explaining. Shields and reposition, that's the core mechanic of GOZ, so she exists for that. And Fuka is there to provide some EX cost saving basically for this whole team rotation, and on top of that, just a crit damage boost for Mika in general. Now, instead of Fuka, I could have chosen to use I don't have a swimsuit Shiroko, so I didn't like plan anything around using swimsuit Shiroko. But besides Fuka, I also tried using Haruka because she provides cost recovery regen similar to Mari and swimsuit Shiroko, but everything else in her kit is not that relevant to GOZ. She does provide again crit damage resistance, which like I mentioned in my red insane walkthrough, GOZ does have a decent amount of crit damage resistance, but it's not that worth it to bring Haruka compared to Fuka, which I already have. So that's why I went with Fuka for the cost reduction. Now that's me explaining the team, the positioning. I don't have to explain that, I can just show you that, where if I just go back to the start of the raid, you can see with how my teams are positioned. Mika ends up being a frontline tank for Mikoto because of their range differences, and Tsubaki ends up being a frontline tank for Iori. Now here the positions are interchangeable because I'm using a repositioning student that's on the special slot instead of using someone like Track Yuka. So here the positions are interchangeable, but the main logic stays the same, where Tsubaki ends up being a frontline tank on one side starting out, and Mika ends up being a frontline tank starting out on the other side. Now, instead of me explaining phase 2, I'm just going to walk through all my phase 1. I did have a couple of resets that I went for. So I'm just going to go through this and pause where I reset my run and explain maybe why I reset. I'm just going to slightly speed this up so you don't have to the whole ward again. If you want to look at my main clear, it's uploaded on my channel already, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. So starting out, I'm just going to quickly explain. I ended up using Mikoto and Iori to clear the waves. Now usually that's maybe not the most common thing to do, because people usually use one EX to clear the wave and another EX, and the next time they use the X skill, it's to reposition. But I chose to clear the waves first, because that means my team has a better chance of living through phase 1 basically. Then next up, I repositioned. Now I chose to use NYFUK on Mika and use Mika X on GOZ if I continue, instead of clearing the wave, because right now my teams are fairly healthy, and the other main thing is they all have a full shield, so I can just let Iori and Mikoto and eventually Mika also just auto attack the bots down. Let me just continue here. Now here I did mess up a bit, although it didn't end up mattering. I should have waited for Mika to use her basic skill to take out the mobs faster, but it didn't. It did not matter that much, so I just straight up went for targeting GOZ here, so I could start sending out those Mika X's. Now I use Iori X just to make sure the waves do get cleared eventually. Then reposition again. I cancel Mikoto's basic, but that doesn't matter that much, because there are no mobs present, and the amount of damage it does to GOZ directly is inconsequential. So yeah, that's why I ended up canceling Mikoto. I could have again waited to use my reposition skill, but that's how it is. Now here you can see another reason why I use Misaka instead of, I would say the closest alternative to Misaka in this team would be Momoi. Another reason for that is, rewind it a bit and I'll switch back to normal play. Let's be that. Now the reason for that is, after like practicing a bit, I know how long it takes for her to go through her X skill animation. So I can just pre-aim her skill, and as you can see, her range like extends basically past the relevant playable area. So I don't have to worry about the bots not being in range. I just need to estimate their relative spawn position, and I can just pre-aim Mikoto's X skill, and as you'll see, that pretty much means as soon as they spawn, they die. So you can see I pre-aimed and pre-used Mikoto's X, and she just, technically I could have aimed this a bit better, a bit to the right side, so that would have overlapped through all the bots, but it taking out pretty much almost 3 bots in one X skill is good enough. Rest of them can die to auto attacks eventually. Then next up, as usual, I ended up using Mika's X skill. Get past that, then S.Ui go to reposition for the double train spawn. Now, this is another reason why at the beginning I ended up using both Iori and Misaka instead of using Iori or Iori, S.Ui and Misaka, because that means at this point, after I use S.Ui skills, I have both Misaka's X skill and Iori's X skill ready to go. So as soon as those two waves spawn, I can instantly use my X skills and take them out as soon as possible. So I'll resume here, and like I said just previously, this was a pause I had to take because I had to answer my door. So I'm just going to quickly skip past through this. We're back here. Now, like I said in my previous interaction, I used Misaka's. I pre-aimed it, and I used Iori's X as soon as possible as well. So that took care of, I would say, more than half of the wave spawn basically, and rest of them I just hoped and prayed that they die to auto attacks eventually and don't just eat at my team's HP that much. Then next up, with how my X skills are rotated, I use S.Ui to reposition. Then again, I can line up Misaka's X skill in advance, so I can take care of the bot waves. Again, if I practice this a bit more, and if I took some notes down, like I probably should, I could have known the exact. I could have been able to note down the exact positions. I can use Misaka's EX skill, so it makes sure it hits every mob at spawn. But I think this X skill was close enough. As usual, it took out almost 3 bots, and the main part is it took out the bots at the back that can do the AoE damage. Then next up, Renver Fuka plus Mika X skill like usual. Then next up, I'll use Shizuko again to reposition and in preparation for the next train. Now, I do have to mention that my phase 1, I honestly got pretty lucky with my phase 1 runs, because these E positions did not end up hurting me too much. I didn't have to reset because of bad reposition. Now, I have not looked into it that deep enough that specifically this team composition with the varying attack ranges they have is a good mixture or not, but it could just be a good RNG lock. And next up, like as previously said, I lined up Misaka's X, and she took out 3 bots this time because of a crit, probably. And then I used combination yet again on GOZ. Then now I'll continue and I'll explain a point that I do have to bring up. Now repositioning using S.Ui skill in preparation for the next train as usual. And again, this is here. I got lucky with my reposition RNG. This could have been bad and I could have had to reset, but pretty much everyone's in the safe zone. So now, like the previous time, I pre-aim Misaka's X. Now, if I slightly go back here and pause when I'm using Iori's X skill. Yep. So here, now I know that GOZ switches into phase 2 as soon as he reaches 30 million HP. So I pre-aimed Misaka's X again to take out the mobs. Now I chose to aim at GOZ using AoE skill. This is where I messed up. I could have just aimed at the mobs and the AoE damage would have gone to GOZ anyways, but in a sense of rush, you could say, or desperation, I ended up aiming directly at GOZ, which was not the optimal play here. I should have aimed at the mob, but I was hoping that I could use AoE X to take down GOZ to below 30 million HP, but that did not happen, as you'll see. So this is one place where I could have improved my run and possibly gotten a better score than I did at the end. But I just went with it and rolled with it, because if I reset this run just for this reason, I might have ended up with a bad repositioning RNG. So I just rolled with it. I aimed at GOZ, which is again a mistake. Like I said, I should have aimed at the mobs instead, but it's fine. Then I ended up using Enra Fuka and Mika X to make up for that mistake. But after that happened, GOZ had already started his bomb X skill animation that you can see. So right here, he already started targeting someone and using his X skill animation before he went below 30 million HP. And like I noted in my other video for Red Armor Insane, once GOZ is in this animation in phase 1, you cannot force him to move into phase 2. If he is in this animation, he will finish this animation and then only afterwards move into phase 2. So this is also another place where that Iori mistake might have ended up costing me now, because I have to spend a bit more time in phase 1, and that means the mobs that should have died are still alive and I have to deal with it. I did not reset here. I could have, but I didn't. I just rolled with it, and I think my phase 1 was over in my first try, basically. Like, I'll take that over like optimizing it before even here in my torment run. Here you can see I'm forced to use as Shizuko's ex, and here as well I used Iori X in desperation because I realized at this point that I messed up, and I'm like, okay, might as well like just do as much damage to GOZ as I can. But now at this point, GOZ was not in any X skill animation, so he ended up changing his phases, and my Iori damage, except for maybe one X, went into the void, which is some damage I could have used in phase 2. So my second team could have had an easier time, but it is what it is. That's kind of how my run went, and it's likely that's how a lot of runs go. You can't have a perfect run every time, so you just have to roll with it. Actually, I think none of my Iori X's went anywhere. They just went into the void. Now, switching phase 2, my goal here was, since I know that my teams won't survive for that long, my goal here was trying to use as many, I mean, ideally I can only fit in 2 Mika X's if I was optimal with my rotations. But basically my plan here was, with 30 seconds remaining, just put out as much damage as I can, because this team is basically either my team dies or I just run out of the 30 seconds I have. I don't have a lot of time, so just put out as much damage as I can into the real boss. So here once I switched to phase 2, because I got phase 1 in my first try, I kinda was like having a bit of an adrenaline rush. I know it's weird, but that is how I am when I'm playing games. And I did not end up spotting basically what another mistake I did when I entered phase 2 is I did not look at the cards. So at this point I was sort of unsure which cause is going to be the real one. Now since I did not know which is the real cause, I had to switch to the next method that is ideally you should not use this method, but maybe with how your team is enters in phase 2 with the starting positions, this is another method you can use. Is basically, now I know that with how my team position works and ranges work, I know that Iori, Tsubaki and Mikoto in the middle, these 3 in the middle, I know that they will always attack the middle cause by default. That's usually in phase 2. Usually once you start enter with the team, most of your students are going to end up targeting the middle cause. So now I know once they started shooting, GOZ's HP did not go down. So that was one indicator that I had, where I know the middle cause is not the real one, because it's taking damage and the HP at the top is not going down. So my next so once I deducted that the middle cause is not going to be the real one, I had to wait here to see if Miko shoots the rightmost cause and if the HP goes down or not. That's why I was waiting for Mika to do some auto attacks and see if she targets the right cause. If the HP goes down, then yes, I go for the right cause. If not, I go for the left cause. That's one way you can also try to deduce which cause is the real one. If you end up not looking at the cards at the start for whatever reason and you miss that visual key, you can also use this deduction method in a pinch to figure out which one's the real cause. Now once I use Mika's X skill, my goal was to rotate as soon as I can to the next Mika's X skill. Now technically I definitely did not have enough seconds unless somehow my team died at the perfect spot. So now another thing that I do have to note before I move into phase 2, the hat trick in Torment, because it does differ from every other difficulty. In Torment, instead of having 1 bomb, you have 2 bombs and you have 1 safe location. Now alongside that, the same deal applies, where wherever the middle hat goes on the first move is where it's going to end up. So if I continue this, you can see the safe point went to the left spot. So now here I pretty much basically went on a suicide run, which was that I have no hopes for the team surviving. So I'm just going to use whatever skills I can. Now there's technically safe spots that you can use. So on this edge of the hat, once I move this up a bit, I'll explain the reasoning and use S.Ui skill. But yeah, okay, so now here you can see AoEs of the hat. So technically this far left side and the far right side are some space spots you can exploit. So at these spots you just don't have to worry about which hat is what. If your students are in these safe spots, they'll not get hit by anything. So what I was trying to do here is use S.Ui to at least move Mika all the way to the right side so she can A target the correct GOZ and be in the safe spot. But how I chose my S.Ui spot, I did not end up moving Mika far enough into the safe spot, so she ended up dying. And that's basically where I left my team one, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. This is good enough. I don't wanna reset this run just for another thing. So after this, I moved into my phase two and team two. So I'll explain my team two. Actually, let me just pull up here and explain my team two. My team two ended up being, of course, Yellow Torment involves two Mikas. So I used my borrow Mika on team two. I could have used it on team one. That doesn't matter. But my second team is comfy team two that exists. Of course, I could have gone for the top score team, but I just wanted to clear my torment instead of chasing scores, so I went for a comfier option. So my comfy option was using two Yukas, one Mika for the damage, S.Ui, Swimsuit Yui to buff, and Ako Himari combo in my special slot. Now, why did I choose the OG Yuka alongside regular Yuka? Now, with how phase 2 works, since it's pretty much everyone knows that in phase 2 GOZ has 3 clones and all the clones throw out bombs and all those bombs do damage, and the bomb from the real GOZ of course does more damage. So I went for the OG Yuka compared to like Cherino is a good option. I could have gone for OG Ui is a good option that I could have gone for. But I chose Yuka because Yuka is a tank. She has yellow armor, so she doesn't take as much damage. And she has high evasion, so she can just evade the attacks at some point. So basically the reason here was I don't have to worry about anyone but Mika dying here. Basically, Ui will usually never get targeted by the bombs because she, with her weapon being sniper rifle, she has a longer range. So if I deposition well enough, Ui should never get targeted by bombs anyways. So the reason I went for regular Yuka as well is because she can eat the bombs and I don't have to worry about her own survivability. Now I went for S.Ui. I could have gone for OG Ui, but similar to Yuka, OG Ui is very squishy compared to Swimsuit Ui because of her armor type. So if I pull up, because I'm blind. Yep. If I pull up regular Ui, she has red armor and causes red attacks. So if she eats even a single bomb, she'll die basically. So that's why I went for Swimsuit Ui, because her role is similar to regular Ui, where she basically exists to buff my Mika X rotation. Now the way regular Ui does it is with cost down, so that helps me do double Mika X's, but Swimsuit Ui provides piercing effectiveness, which basically means Mika does more yellow damage to yellow enemies. So I went for Swimsuit Ui for that reason, and I went with Ako Himari combo, which is pretty popular, exists everywhere. So this was my team 2 strat and the reasons I chose the students I did choose. Now phase 2 is where I had to reset a couple of times, and I'll go through the rest of my board and explain points. So yeah, let's continue with my walkthrough of just my whole torment board. Now let's get this part where I choose a team. Now going in, as usual, I slowed it down. This time I noted that the real GOZ is on the top right. Now I'm just gonna pause it here quickly, just in case you don't know how to spot the real GOZ by now. I'm just gonna leave this in here just in case, again, if anyone needs to know. So now you can see each GOZ when they move into their positions, either at the start of phase 2 or once they like do the circle attack and reposition themselves. Basically, there will be 3 GOZs. One of the GOZs, as you can see, throws out blue cards, which are which have a blue highlight on them, and the fake gauzes throughout cards which have a red or pinkish highlight on them. Colors, these colors might be different quality or whatever, but the logic says the same, is that two gauze throw out highlighted cards of the same color and one gauze throws out highlighted card of a different color. So whichever gauze throws out the highlighted card of different color is the real one. So that's the main visual cue that you're intended to use to spot the real gauze. And of course the other method that I mentioned of deducting which gauze is getting attacked and how much HP is going down, and if the HP is going down or not, you can use that method as well, whichever you find is easier for you. Now you can see I know that the top gauze is the real one. I'm basically going to start out with track Yuka skill to reposition every student over there. Now with this repositioning, unfortunately it did not make Mika attack the top left card because of how just the repositioning, RNG and pathing works. Both Yuka took up this area, so Mika naturally ended up moving to the next closest empty space she could find, which ended up being in front of the middle gauze. Continue this, I don't think I did anything special. Now since one thing with this team is, since I don't have any cost reduction that I'm bringing, like N by Fuka because I used it in phase 1 already, and or bringing OG-Ui, is that's gonna affect my rotation, in the sense that I can only use one Mika X at a time. I cannot do double Mika X rotation, which is the most optimal way to put out damage. But I'm making up for that fact by bringing in Senseis, which boosts Mika's yellow damage. Of course, I need to use Senseis skill for that, but starting out, I'm just gonna use regular Mika X. Now, why did I not choose to pre-buff with Senseis? Because Senseis costs 4 cost to use, which is quite expensive for me to fit in just my starting rotation. So I just went for a Ako Himari buffed Mika X. Now Mika's base. Now one more thing is I want to point out, why did I end up using Ako's X skill here, is because Mika's basic attack does do a decent chunk of damage, like it does matter. Now here it didn't matter because Mika is not even targeting the real gauze, but let's just say if she was targeting the real gauze with her basic skill, I ended up Ako buffing her just slightly before I was gonna reach my cost cap, just so that the damage she's gonna put out here is boosted. Ako's crit damage buff. Although here again, like I said, it didn't end up mattering. So I went for the Ako buff first, because another reason I went for Ako buff first instead of Himari buff, let's just say, because Ako's buff does last longer than Himari. So that can matter a bit in case you end up like messing up your rotations and you have to delay using your Mika's X skill a bit. So Ako buff, then Mika X, and before she like does her X skill damage, I buff her with Himari. Then now I can see the hats are popping out. So now I need to here take note on where the safe spot, the middle hat, goes. Now luckily the middle hat did go in the direction where my team's already in, so that helped me have a bit of a breathing room here. But even after that, now here I could have used Swimsuit Ui instead of Track Yuka, and the reason I went for Track Yuka first is because I can see that my students don't have a shield on them first of all. So Mika being red armor, if GOZ decides to do any auto attacks after this X skill, it's better to have the Yuka shield than not. And the other reason is that right now at this point I have to use Yuka and Senseis, both of those skills anyways. So me using Track Yuka skill right now means it's going to come up first in the overall skill rotation. So the earlier I use Track Yuka skill, the earlier the next Track Yuka skill is going to pop up. So that's not that big of a deal, but that's like a small decision that I did choose to make here. So I use Track Yuka again to try to reposition them as close to the real GOZ as they can be. Then I ended up using Senseis, so I could have that Senseis buff on Mika eventually at some point. Now here all I can do is wait while this red circle is going on because I don't have enough cost to use the Ako Himari buff Mika X anyways. So like previously, like I said, I'm going to use Ako buff first because it does last longer as well. Then I'm going to use Himari buff on Mika. And the reason I held it a bit here is because I used that time slow to spot the real cause, which this time is gonna be on the rightmost. So that's the reason I held my Himari up here a bit. So as soon as I have enough cost, I ended up using Mika's X skill. And then reposition everyone close to the real cause, as close to the real cause as I can. Now this is one thing that I know sucks about this raid. People complain about this and the complaints are justified, but as you can see, Mika is now hidden under the X card skills. With the team composition that I chose, Mika is still relatively by herself. There aren't any students surrounding her, so I can still find somewhere on the screen to buff Mika, which you'll eventually see later on. But for now, I'm just going to point out this issue that yes, it exists. I know it's annoying. Open a customer support ticket and let the devs know. Maybe they'll eventually fix it. Now here I could have chosen to use S.Ui, but her buff does last quite a good bit. If I just actually open it up. Her X skill buff lasts for 45 seconds. You don't have to worry about it that much. You don't have to like count the seconds for X skill, but if you just play this game enough, you'll figure out what certain X skills last for how long and how many X skills you can rotate before like refreshing a buff like this. One more thing is that her basic skill also exists. Now how her basic skill functions is that as soon as she obtains 3 clues, she gives another stackable yellow damage buff. So this does stack on top of her basic skill. Now how those clues stack, as basically it means every 2 X skills you use in your team besides swimsuit Ui's, she gains 1 clue. So every 6 X skills, basically that means every 6 X skills that you use gives another small yellow damage buff to your students. So that's why I don't have to worry too much about having to repeatedly use swimsuit Ui. Now moving on, like I mentioned before that Mika is still relatively by herself, so I don't have that big of an issue dealing with the fact that Mika is under the X skills cards. Here what I can do is I basically try to judge if I can get this Ako buff on Mika, and if you can see that putting my mouse wait, actually I'll just remove my head here, but basically you can see that my cursor is on the bottom right. So I basically dragged this cursor as far as I could just to see if the Ako buff is indeed going on to Mika, which I can sort of spot here in the bottom right with the glowing silhouette of Mika, and none of the other 3 students are. So again, this is one thing that it doesn't matter that much, but what my goal is with this video, I'm just going to point out pretty much everything I can here. Let me bring myself back here. Okay, so basically this is how I judge that I'm not gonna have to have that, like I don't have to reset for this issue basically. Now like usual, I'm gonna Ako buff Mika first, then I'm gonna use Himari buff, then I'm gonna use Mika's X skill to damage the real boss. Now here you can see that swimsuit Ui's basic skill popped up, which is called decisive clue here. So this also provides a small yellow damage buff over the fight. Here ideally maybe I should have refreshed swimsuit Ui's X skill, but I can see that my students are being targeted by GOZ's bombs, and at least Trakyuka and Mika both are unshielded here. So just to be safe, I'm going to use Trakyuka's skill here to shield them back up again instead of using swimsuit Ui to refresh the X skill buff. Now you can see here, even if I did use Tiyuka shield here, Mika was already down to half HP naturally, and she ended up taking. And the other main reason is that now if I just open up this targeting here, you can see that Mika is getting targeted by the bomb from the real GOZ. You can see that basically Mika got hit for 100,000 damage. Anyway, so continuing on, this is where I ended up resetting my phase 2 run. Now here again I ended up spotting that real GOZ in the top left. I repositioned with track Yuka. Like the previous times, I wait for max cost, I buff Mika with Ako. Then I use Mika X and instantly buffer with Mario again. Don't have to explain that one again. Now here I was going to use my track Yuka skill, but I waited because I saw the hat skill popping up. So I just waited just in case to see where the hat is gonna pop up. Now on the first move, the safe spot hat went to the right. Yep, as you can see, it went to the right. So basically, even if I try, I cannot use track Yuka to move all my students into the safe zone on the very far right. As you can see, the middle white circle dictates how far track Yuka herself can jump. So even if I jump her to the farthest spot, she's gonna be in line with the middle hat. So I cannot. Basically, my other option here is that, which I mentioned previously, is that moving those students into the safe spot, which is on the very far left. That's what I went for here. Now, I should have gone for that, but I messed up, and I used swimsuit Ui. Honestly, I don't remember what was going through my head at the time, but I used swimsuit Ui, if I remember correctly, because I figured I would have enough time to get back to track Yuka's skill. Like I would have enough X cost to use swimsuit Ui to buff Mika a bit, and then use track Yuka's skill to reposition into the safe zone. So you can see that I made it just in time. Honestly, I should not have done this. I should have used track Yuka's skill first, so I could have enough time, but luckily I made it basically just in time. I don't think if I was late by like half a second, I would have basically taken that hat. Now here, like before, I use Aqua buff my Mika to prepare her X skill. I ended up spotting that the real GOZ is on the far right. And actually, now I remember why I reset this one. As soon as I use my Ako skill, my third X skill card basically disappeared. This is a bug, I think, which has only been present with this Grand Assault cause. I know people have already talked about it, and I did end up opening a customer support ticket to report it, but this was the reason I ended up resetting my run here, basically because I lost one of my X cards. I'm gonna go forward here, reset my run. Now, I spotted that the real is on the top left. Move everyone up there like usual. Wait for max cost, buff Mika with Ako. Use Mika skill buffer with Mari before it goes off. Speed it up a bit this time. Now, like we can see that the middle hat went to the left, so I know the safe hat is gonna be on the left anyways. But like I originally mentioned, I used track Yuka's skill first because that means track Yuka's skill is gonna pop up earlier in the rotation next time round. Then wait for max cost, use swimsuit Ui. Ideally, I should have done this a bit earlier because, like I said, her X skill does last longer. I should have done this earlier. Now buff Mika with Ako, buff Mika with Mari. use Himari's X skill as a slowdown to spot the real GOZ, which is on the far right. Then use Mika's X skill. Now I know real GOZ is on the far right, so I'm just gonna reposition my students accordingly. Cut this part. Now they did eat the bomb this time, but Mika took the bomb. So moving on, now here I chose to use Ako, Himari, Mika instead of using Ui in between because, like I originally said, Ui's skill does last longer. Ako, Himari, Mika. Now here you can see Mika did take damage again from the bomb and this time Mika did eat even though she ate the fake bomb, it still ended up doing just the same amount of damage this time because she did not have a shield on her. So like previously, she just basically died here. That's going to be another restart for me. Skip past this a bit. And this time around, I think GOZ end up on the bottom right. So like I would, I'm going to use Track Yuka skill first. Then using Ako, Mika, Himari starting out instead of using Ui. Again, this time you can see Mika did take damage, but she had shield on her, so she ended up living through it. Then here I had to wait for the safe hat to see where it's gonna be. Luckily it's on the side that my team is already on, but like I mentioned previously as well, I'm gonna use Track Yuka's skill anyways, so it comes back fast in the rotation. Then now you can see again Mika's under the X skill card, but I'm gonna do the same trick I did. Oh wait, let me just show you. This is basically Mika's HP bar, so she's right under Ako's X skill card. So I ended up utilizing the same trick that I can, if I can see that if I move my cursor way to the far right, if I can buff Mika or not. But before I did that, I ended up using Ui. Why? Because I'm gonna use Ui in this rotation anyways, and maybe if I do use Ui, that repositioning, that second repositioning can push out Mika a bit more, so I bit out of under the X card, so I can maybe try and get buffs on her. So I ended up Ui's X skill, try and force reposition and use up some X cost. Now GOZ is gonna change positions anyway, so I ended up using Ako Himari as usual to buff Mika, and I spotted GOZ on the far right, so I buff Mika and sprout another X skill. Now I can see the bomb attacks coming out anyways. I'm gonna use Tika's skill regardless of what attack GOZ does here. Now again you can see Mika did eat the bombs, so she did take a decent amount of damage here, but she's still alive thanks to the shield here. Now like usual, Ako, Himari, Mika. I buffed her a bit earlier with Himari, but it doesn't matter, I'll make it to the X skill anyways in time. But again, unfortunately, GOZ ended up doing the bomb attack. That means my Mika dies, so that means another restart. Now we go for the next one. Now GOZ is on the top left, so I reposition accordingly. I buff Ako, Himari, Mika. Now Mika's already very low on HP, so that's not good. Now here I notice that middle hat is on the left side, so I don't have to do the safe zone spot. So instead I can just move a bit to the left. I don't have to worry about every student being on the safe spot. So I move far left. I use Ui, so I can again just get that buff up on Mika. Then I'm gonna use Ako's X skill while GOZ repositions. Ako on Mika, Mari on Mika like usual. TL goes far right, so that's where I aim my Mika is X skill. The next in rotation is gonna be T Yuka because everyone's unshielded. Skip forward a bit. Now Mika this time evaded. Hold up. So you can see here on the bottom right, if you pay close attention, you can see that Mika ended up evading that bomb, which is good. Because I'm pretty sure if she did eat that bomb, she might have died there because her HP is quite low. So this is another one of those RNG elements of this raid, which already has a lot of RNG elements, is that evasion accuracy stat balances out such that GOZ's bomb can miss your students, which is good for you. I'm likely gonna use Ako Himari Mika as a thing, I'm pretty sure. Yep, as you can see, I'm able to buff Mika if I aim my cursor far right enough. So that's what I ended up doing. Using Mika's X skill now, the bombs are coming in. And this time around, I'm pretty sure Mika... Yeah, I think this time around Mika ate the bomb. Yeah, this time around Mika did eat the bomb. Mika had a skill. Basically, all you need to do is Mika had a skill. Mika had a shield on her, so that means she ended up surviving that. Now I use Ui's Ui's X skill, and then now I can see that the real cause is in the middle. So I technically don't have to reposition her, but I do want to shield up here. So that's what I'm going to do. Now this phase 2 run is actually where I did like go for the full clear. But as I'm gonna show you, like usual, the safe hat starts in the middle, but the bad thing happened for me, which is that it went to the left, and I don't have a T Yuka X skill card in my rotation. So I took a huge gamble here. I did not know if it was going to pay off or not. Is basically I'm gonna eat whatever bomb or ball, like I think it's like a ball or a punch. So I took that gamble that I'm just gonna eat it and see if my team lives or not. So I just continue this. I'm gonna aqua buff Mika just to prepare her X skill. Now here I was deciding between using Mika into Himari, or if I buff Himari then use Mika. Now you will see in this split second I did make the decision to buff Mika instead of using her X skill. And why would that be is because I'm gonna eat the bomb here, as you can see, or the ball rather. Now luckily my team did survive that, but another thing that does happen here is that even if your team survives, they are going to get stunned. So if I chose to use Mika's X skill before Himari, my Mika would have gotten stunned in the middle of her X skill, and that X skill would have gone to the void basically. So that was sort of like a quick decision that I had to make, and I luckily A, survived this ball, and B, I did end up making the right decision, which was buffing Mika before using her X skill. Now this stunning basically did delay my Mika X skill, but I'm pretty sure she still had the Ako buff, and even if she didn't, I just rolled with it. I wasn't thinking about it too much. I just rolled with it and sent out the Mika X skill. Whatever's gonna happen is going to happen. Now again, since they're low on shield, I'm gonna shield them up. Mika is very low on HP, but luckily I did manage to groggy GOZ. Now groggy in this raid doesn't really matter. That's when the only thing it does is give you a slight, like it slightly pauses the boss basically from doing what he was already doing. As soon as the boss recovers, he is going to send out the bomb still. It does not cancel his X skills. It just gives you a slight pause from whatever the boss is doing. Now you can see here, as soon as GOZ recovered, the bombs did come out, and they did damage both the Yukas, but the bomb that was targeting Mika, luckily, as you can see with the miss, luckily, another lucky moment for this run is that she did end up evading that bomb. This is all RNG. This is not like a skill based thing. I just have to pray that the RNG is in my favor here. Now next up I'm gonna use Ako, Himari, Mika. Ideally here, if I was like, because at this point I was just like trying to reel from the fact that I did live through the hat and the bomb, so I wasn't thinking in the most optimal way. So I ended up using Ako, Himari, Mika. What I should have done likely is refresh S.Ui's X skill, but I ended up using Ako, Himari, Mika because going through my head at the time. Now 1 minute training, 5 million damage remaining. This is basically just the final stretch. You can call it a victory lap, but as you'll see, I did mess up in the end anyways. So I repositioned with track Yuka to the real cause like usual. Now here I was testing to see if I could buff Mika, and I could. Now here again, I did not use S.Ui skill. I should have used S.Ui skill. But like I mentioned in the previous interaction, actually no, wait. Oh yeah, this is where I did end up messing up. This is where I messed up my ending. Now the hat skill happens. I'm waiting to see where the middle hat is gonna go. It's gonna go on the very far left. So at this point, again, I wasn't thinking in the most optimal way. What I was thinking was, since I have 50 seconds left, let me just spam all my skills. Try to rotate back to track Yuka so I can move all my students in the same spot like I mentioned on the far left of the very far right. So what I ended up deciding to do is try to rotate back as soon as I can to track Yuka. Now that is the wrong option. I should not have done that. Why I shouldn't have done that? So basically, like I said, I chose to use all my skills, which was a bad idea. Why I should not have done that is my Mika, as you can see, even though she's a bit closer, she was already in the safe spot. So even if, so I do know that you can track Yuka will likely survive, but Senseis might not survive. So I should have known this, and I should have stuck with my original plan is refreshing Senseis than using Mika combo. But I messed up. I had to use the Yuka, which, as you'll see, is going to end up costing me here. And the punch does go out. Like I said, everyone survived, and Mika was already in the safe zone. So here I did the Mika combination. Usual. So what that mistake ended up costing me is that Yuka died, which is fine, which is actually kind of good for me. But that mistake ended up costing me the fact that if I use my Mika's X skill earlier, I could have gotten Mika's X skill in this rotation. And I don't have a Mika's X skill in this rotation. And my OG Yuka is dead here. So I don't have enough cost. I basically just don't have enough cost region to rotate back to Mika's X skill and get it off. So that ended up costing me the end of it. But I decided to roll with it. I did take another chance here. I'm going to rewind it a bit. I didn't have spotting that GOZ on the top left. So what I decided to do here. So yeah, what I decided to do here is I'm going to do the usual strat I do is reposition everyone to next to the real GOZ. And my hope here was that me repositioning all the way through far left means Mika auto attacks GOZ. Now Mika, since she has permacrit, her auto attack still hurt a lot, and especially if she can get a basic skill off, that's also pretty good as well. So I ended up moving everyone far to the left. I buffed Mika with Ako just to get that crit damage up as well, so Mika could again do better auto attacks. Now here what I should have done is use Himari buff as well, which probably would have mattered. But again, I was hoping that I could rotate back to Mika's X skill before the timer went to 0. But as you'll see, that did not end up happening. So what I should have done is use Himari buff for Mika, but I didn't. So that kept costing me. But at this point, I was close enough. I'm just gonna take the clear. I don't care that much about getting the highest score I can potentially. So this is basically the end of my tournament. I did, with the exact same setup, I did get a successful mock. So this is why I used my real ticket on tournament. So now if I just continue, Basically, I was making a finisher team here. I had only 100k left to go, so I ended up using Toki and Assassin and just to like basically finish calls here. This part doesn't matter, but I do have to clear calls. So basically, I went for a finisher with. Now here, what I did mess up is I ended up spotting the wrong calls. I still could have finished it, but I ended up spotting the wrong gauze, so I reset my team tree. This time I spotted the correct gauze. I used kind of whatever and pulled it up. And this was the score that I ended up with. Now, after all this is said and done, if you do want to just look at my clear in its full without this yapping in between, you can. I'll leave that link in the description. You can go to my channel and look at that video. But yeah, this was basically just me going over my Torment run, which I think in total only lasted for 20-25 minutes or so, which is pretty good for a Torment, at least from what I've seen. Pretty good time to beat Torment, and now I'm pretty sure I can still try to go for a score chase, but I don't know. I'm pretty happy with my rank here. I'm gonna be flat anyways, so I'm pretty happy with my rank here. So before I do head off, I'm just gonna show my clears. This is the red team, which you can see in action for like a whole hour in my other video that I made on Red and Sage. So I did end up getting this clear. This was just me on my phone at like 2 a.m. in the night, being a bit annoyed at not getting the clear. So I just pulled my phone up, used the ticket, and got this clear. This is the clear that I just showed off. My team 1, my team 2. Ideally, I did 2 teammate in mock, but with my ticket clear, it did not go. Even though it did go pretty well, it was my mistake at the end in using the wrong skill rotation, which ended up costing me, and I had to bring in a finisher team. And as for my blue clear, I tried a bit with this very big crit mold Hinata team, which does have the potential to clear blue armor in one team, but I did this for like half an hour, it didn't work out, so I just got it as far as I could and used a second team to finish off blue. So anyways, that's that. Again, do leave a comment for any feedback, or if you do have any questions that you would like me to explain, I'm more than happy to. But this is gonna be it for me. I'm gonna leave this here, and I hope to see you in the next Total Assault. This is gonna be Wakamo Hovercraft. I am going to try and attempt a Torment clear there as well. Most likely, I'm not that hopeful that I can clear Torment on Wakaboat, but it's one of the more accessible raid. So I'm gonna try my best to do it, and if I do clear it, I'm gonna probably upload that clear. I'm likely gonna make another video like this on that as well. And before that, I do plan to pull for camping here. Camp here, what are you gonna call her? Hobo hair, homeless hair. She goes by many names. So I will have her, and I'll see if I end up picking up any other 3 stars that I don't already have. Yeah, I'm gonna see you there most likely. I'm gonna hope that I do clear my Torment, but if I don't, I'll still clear my Insane, and I'll very likely make another video of this style on that. If there's any feedback, or if there's anything that you would like me to add in that future video, do let me know. But yeah, it's gonna be it for me. Again, thank you for coming by. Thank you for listening to me yapping about stuff. I probably missed a couple of things here and there. I'm not the most knowledgeable person about this game, but I just want to put out what I know out there to, in hopes that it does help someone. Anyways, yep. Bye bye. See you in the next one.